She filled in for her aunt's cleaning shift at an upscale hotel and was mistaken for a guest by a wealthy CEO. The rain hammered incessantly on the tin roof of the small apartment, each drop resonating like a ticking clock in Emma's ears. The desk lamp flickered for the third time that evening, throwing elongated shadows across her open textbooks. She hardly paid attention. Her eyes, heavy with fatigue from countless hours dedicated to preparing for the esteemed medical scholarship, repeatedly traced the same sentence. Outside, thunder growled like a far-off creature. Within the quiet space, the sole noise was the gentle scratching of her pen until the sudden ring of her phone broke the stillness. The piercing sound caught her off guard. She cast a fleeting look at the screen. Aunt Lily. Her heart plummeted. "Greetings, dear auntie," she responded promptly. A moment of silence hung in the air, followed by a soft rustling sound, and then a voice emerged, trembling, hoarse, and filled with panic. "Emma, I made a mistake. My ankle. I believe I may have sprained it. I won't be able to make it tonight." Emma straightened her posture, her muscles tightening with anticipation. "Excuse me, how are you doing? Where might you be?" "I'm back home now." Lily's voice trembled. "I attempted to shake it off, yet the pain is overwhelming. I am unable to stand upright. Emma, if I fail to appear, there's a chance they could terminate my contract. I am currently under probation." Last week they let go of 2 other cleaners. Emma experienced a sudden surge of unease. Her aunt had put in tremendous effort to maintain her position at Grand Avalon, the most opulent hotel in the city. It was the sole reliable source of income they had after her parents passed away. Emma understood the significance of the position, not only for her aunt but also for her own prospects moving forward. "I don't know what to do," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "Emma, would you mind stepping in for me this time? Simply tidy up a handful of rooms just for tonight." Emma stood still, her thoughts swirling in a tempest. She had her scholarship interview looming just 2 days away. She faced an extensive amount of material still awaiting her revision. This shift was anything but ordinary. Lily had noted previously that her task for the evening was located on the executive floor, the exclusive VIP area. The attendees were the elite of society, influential politicians and top-tier CEOs. Every detail needed to be flawless. A single misstep could cost Lily her job. Emma rose gracefully and made her way to the petite window. The rain cascaded down, drenching the weathered pavement beyond the window. She inhaled deeply. "Very well," she replied softly. "I will take care of it. Will you?" Lily's voice resonated with astonishment, followed by a wave of profound appreciation. "Oh, Emma, I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate it." The uniform is neatly arranged and draped behind the door. The staff ID resides in the pocket. Simply swipe to gain access through the side entrance. Emma gave a subtle nod, though Lily remained unaware of it. "Take a moment to relax and apply ice to your ankle. I will handle it." Once the call ended, Emma swiftly changed her attire. The uniform hung a bit loosely on her, the fabric rough and frayed from use. She gazed at her reflection, transformed from a medical student into a hotel cleaner. With a practiced motion, she gathered her hair into a low bun reminiscent of her aunt's style and tucked the staff ID into her jacket. She exited the apartment, clutching a frayed umbrella, and hurried to catch the final bus downtown. The urban glow danced upon the rain-soaked pavement, refracted by the relentless shower. As she approached the Grand Avalon, a moment of hesitation gripped her at the back entrance, her gaze fixed on the majestic structure that seemed to belong to a realm of fantasy. She had never set foot inside, not even in the entrance area. Taking a moment to gather herself, she swiped the ID and entered through the staff entrance. The atmosphere within was refreshing, carrying a subtle hint of citrus and a polished aroma. She received a brief nod from a weary supervisor, his gaze fixed on the clipboard in front of him. "You have arrived later than expected. Who will take Lily's place?" he inquired coldly. Emma gave a slight nod. "Top-tier levels, 10th and 16th. Some important guests returned unexpectedly. You will address both aspects. Be meticulous." In silence, he passed her a cart and walked off. Emma maneuvered the cumbersome cart into the elevator, her heart racing with anticipation. She had absorbed her aunt's routine through countless dinner conversations, yet executing it herself proved to be an entirely different challenge. The elevator, doors glided shut with a gentle chime, and she embarked on a journey into a realm distant from her own. As she climbed higher, she murmured softly to herself, "Just tidy up a few rooms, just for tonight, then head back home." However, destiny had different intentions. The staff elevator chimed gently, and Emma maneuvered the cleaning cart onto the 10th floor. The hallway carpeting enveloped her feet in luxury, a rich navy adorned with golden trim, more pristine than any surface she had ever traversed. The gentle illumination of crystal sconces bathed the hall in a serene light, reminiscent of a tranquil palace, yet the stillness felt unsettling. She gripped the cart handle with increasing intensity, her fingers icy even in the cozy embrace of the building. Everything felt like a dream. Only a few hours prior, she found herself bent over medical textbooks. At that moment, she donned a worn cleaning uniform that hung loosely on her frame, her ID badge affixed to the front, bearing a name that wasn't her own. She glided past enormous double doors, each room marked with numbers rather than names, and envisioned the stories unfolding. Within, chief executives, successors, esteemed guests. She had examined individuals like them in her sociology course. At that moment, she was meticulously shining their flaws. The initial assignment was room 1501. It stood empty, according to the notes her aunt had hastily written down. Emma deftly swiped the MasterCard and gracefully slipped inside. The room was breathtaking. Polished marble underfoot, sumptuous velvet cascading down, and vibrant lilies elegantly arranged in a crystal vase. She blinked several times before diving into her task, just as her aunt had outlined. Cleared out the trash, swapped out the towels, polished the surfaces, vacuumed the floors, inspected the minibar, and meticulously arranged the toiletries with precise spacing. She moved with purpose, propelled by anxiety. Each knock or faint voice sent her heart racing. What if someone challenged her? What if someone discovered she wasn't included on the employee list? The dread lingered beside her, an ever-present shadow. As she wrapped things up, the walkie-talkie on the cart emitted a crackling sound. "Is anyone free on the 10th? Urgent appeal. The presidential suite on the 16th floor requires immediate cleaning attention. Guest departed ahead of schedule due to a health concern. A reset is essential before the next guest comes in. Is there anyone available to take over?" A hush enveloped the surroundings. Emma paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. Her heart pounded with a rhythm that drowned out the static. With a trembling thumb, she grasped the walkie and pressed the button. "I am capable. I am currently wrapping up 1501. I will accept it. Understood. Suite 1601. Feel free to utilize the private elevator if necessary. Complete it swiftly. The arrival window for the next guest is adaptable." Emma took a deep breath. The suite. She restored 1501 to its pristine state and maneuvered the cart back toward the service elevator. The ascent to the 16th floor seemed more daunting, more burdensome, as if every level pressed down on her heart. As the door creaked open, a soft gasp escaped her lips. The 16th floor was a stark contrast to the others. There were merely 4 rooms, resembling a luxury apartment with hallways spacious enough to accommodate a car. The walls showcased authentic artwork, each piece unique, while a gentle instrumental tune flowed softly from concealed speakers. She approached 1601, the double doors slightly open. A gleaming placard next to it proclaimed, "The Hart Presidential Suite." Upon entering, she found herself momentarily breathless. It was something other than a hotel room. It was a grand palace. The suite unfolded into an expansive living area, boasting lofty ceilings, intricate chandeliers, and windows that stretched from floor to ceiling, perfectly capturing the dramatic skyline beyond. Bookshelves were seamlessly integrated into the rich mahogany walls. A baby grand piano graced one corner, and a marble fireplace retained a gentle warmth. Emma remained motionless, her hands tightly clutching the cart. She snapped back to the present and got to work. She glided through the room with a sense of purpose, meticulously arranging the bed with exacting care, plumping the pillows, and polishing the bathroom until it sparkled. She arranged each perfume bottle and glass with precision, as if they were instruments in an operating room. As she toiled, curiosity stirred within her about the kind of individual who inhabited such a space. What actions led to this outcome for them? How could anyone possibly require this vast expanse all to themselves? 60 minutes went by. Emma knelt beside the fireplace, meticulously wiping away the last traces of soot from the marble, when she heard the soft click of the door behind her. Initially, she remained facing away. She considered the possibility that it was housekeeping, verifying something once more. Yet a voice, rich and unwavering, resonated from behind her. This is certainly surprising. Emma's hands halted abruptly, caught in the act of wiping. That voice did not belong to a cleaner. She pivoted gradually, and the figure in the doorway was undeniably recognizable. He stood tall in a sharp suit, even at this late hour, silver threading through his temples and a phone still clutched in his hand, resembling a figure from the cover of a business magazine. His gaze sharpened as it swept across her features. He lifted an eyebrow, accompanied by a subtle, knowing smile. "I wasn't made aware of any unexpected plans for this evening, but I imagine Grand Avalon still has a knack for entertaining its premier clientele." Emma's lips parted, then closed again. Her blood turned to ice. "Excuse me? Could you clarify what you mean?" She hesitated, her words faltering. The man tilted his head, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "You can drop the act. It is fine. I do not need the extra attention. But thank you anyway." Emma stared at him, horrified. "I am just cleaning," she whispered. He blinked, confused for a moment, then skeptical. "You are a cleaner?" Emma could not answer, her eyes filled with tears. She grabbed her cloth, stood up, and backed away. "I am sorry," she said, voice cracking. "I will leave." She left the cart, her aunt's ID, everything, and ran. The moment Emma turned to face him, the stillness of the presidential suite shattered. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the cloth, her breathing uneven, eyes wide with confusion and fear. The man standing by the door studied her for a long beat. He set down his phone on the side table with slow deliberation, his gaze fixed on her like he was trying to place her in a context that made sense. He took a few steps forward, his voice low, tinged with sardonic amusement. "You know," he said, "I thought I told them I was not interested in this kind of service anymore." Emma blinked. I am sorry?" "The hotel," he clarified, as though she were in on a private joke. "They like to be discreet with their VIP guests. A little after-hours surprise. It is not the time they have done this, but I told them to stop." He motioned vaguely toward her, as if that explained everything. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She was too stunned to speak. He misread her silence as part of the act. "No need to be nervous," he continued with a slight smile. "Really, you can relax. I had a long day and I just want some quiet tonight. You do not need to go through the whole routine." The words felt like ice in her ears. "What?" she finally whispered. "You are not the first girl they have sent." But this time they went for something a little more subtle, less flashy, more innocent looking. I must admit they have a good eye for performance. Emma's face drained of color. "Performance?" she echoed. He nodded, then chuckled softly. "You are very convincing. The whole lost-in-the-room look, the humble clothes, the wide-eyed innocence. It is a bit overdone, but charming." She stepped back as if he had struck her, her lips parted in disbelief. "I'm not," she tried to say, but her throat tightened. Her voice rose in desperation. "I'm not a performer. I'm not some thing you get with a sweet upgrade." The man's expression faltered just for a second. "I'm here cleaning," she snapped, her voice sharper now, wounded. "My aunt couldn't make it, and I'm helping her, that's all. I'm not part of some disgusting fantasy package." The last word cracked out of her like a slap. The amusement vanished from his face, replaced by a flicker of doubt. "Wait," he said. "You're serious?" Emma's eyes glistened. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. "How dare you? Just because I'm in this room wearing a cheap uniform doesn't mean I'm for sale." He stepped forward, alarmed now. "I didn't mean," but she was already moving. Her breath caught in her throat. She averted her gaze, brushing away tears with the back of her hand. As she made her exit, her elbow collided with the cleaning cart, sending it off balance. Her aunt's identification. The badge fell from her chest, landing face down on the carpet. He shouted after her once more, "Hold on, I erred." Emma yanked the door open and rushed into the hallway, the opulent silence closing behind her like a wall. Within the confines of the room, Alexander remained motionless. He fixed his gaze on the door, then gradually shifted his attention to the cart she had abandoned. He strolled over, retrieved the ID from the ground. I glanced at the name, Lily Mendez. Definitely not Emma. He cast a quick look over his shoulder at the door, his brows knitting together in concern. He embodied various traits, displaying a fierce determination in his professional dealings and maintaining a distant demeanor with those he didn't know, yet he was not inherently unkind. And what had he just accomplished? It echoed in his thoughts, stirring a deepening discomfort. Her gaze upon him was captivating, not offended like an actor exaggerating their performance, but truly wounded. He swept his fingers through his hair, exhaling slowly. In the hallway, Emma ascended the staff stairs 2 steps at a time, her cheeks wet with hot tears. She had never experienced such profound humiliation before. All she desired was to assist her aunt in completing her task quietly and return home. Yet she found herself misjudged as something abhorrent, something beneath humanity. The way he regarded her, as if she were merely another accessory in his lavish suite, seared painfully in her heart. She returned to the staff lounge, her fingers trembling as she removed the uniform and slipped into her own clothes. Her aunt's identification had vanished, yet she found herself unable to return for it. Not at this moment. He exited the hotel, via the same rear entrance, the frigid night air striking her with the force of a slap. The rain had diminished to a gentle drizzle, yet her face was already dampened. She took the winding path home, her mind swirling with thoughts. It was just one night, one simple favor, nothing more than that. Little did she know that a single miscommunication in an opulent suite would alter the trajectory of her life forever. Alexander Hart lingered in the presidential suite, solitude enveloping him as the girl faded from view. The silence weighed upon him more heavily than ever. The embers in the marble hearth had long since faded, yet he lingered close, fixated on the ID emblem in his grasp. Lily Mendez, it stated. He flipped it once more, hoping the name might somehow alter. Yet the image on the badge clearly did not match the girl who had just escaped the room. A sensation coiled tightly within him. He had witnessed countless women trying to employ allure or cunning to gain access, favors, or financial support. He had honed his ability to detect falsehoods from afar, yet this evening there was an element about her that felt off. She had not engaged in flirtation, she had not acted coyly. Instead, she had appeared terrified, hurt, and humiliated. Not like an individual ensnared in deceit, but rather one charged with something despicable. Alexander brushed his fingers along his jaw, a wave of guilt constricting in his chest. Approached the phone resting on the desk and proceeded to dial the security office. "This is Hart," he declared. "Please provide me with the hallway and suite camera footage from the last 2 hours. Proceed to the 16th floor immediately." "Absolutely, Mr. Hart," was the swift reply. After a brief interval, he found himself seated in front of a monitor in the secluded office below, meticulously examining the footage. He observed the girl, yet to be named, as she maneuvered the cart into the hallway. She found it challenging to navigate, evidently not accustomed to the arrangement. She stepped into the suite with confidence, executing her tasks swiftly and systematically, her actions precise and purposeful, devoid of any hint of allure or anything amiss. She was alone, devoid of any handoff or indications of a prearranged meeting. She was, quite frankly, fulfilling her duties, or perhaps those of another. "Who is this person?" Alexander inquired softly. The head of security fidgeted with unease. Indeed, the badge in her possession is associated with Lily Mendez, who has been part of the cleaning staff for many years. Yet that was not Lily. We can conduct facial recognition using employee records if that suits your needs. "No," Alexander interjected. "Kindly provide me with all the information you possess regarding Mendez. Contact details, timetable, personal background." In the solitude of his suite, Alexander found himself engrossed in the file displayed on his tablet. Lily Mendez, 57, has been with Grand Avalon for 7 years, maintaining a spotless record with no disciplinary marks. She resides in a working-class neighborhood east of the city and has one dependent listed as her emergency contact, Emma Mendez. The name startled him. He gazed at it for an extended moment. It has to be her, Emma. He was uncertain which aspect troubled him more, the realization that he had insulted a young woman genuinely trying to assist her injured aunt, or the unsettling awareness that he had regarded her with the same icy indifference he typically reserved for mere transactions. Her face resurfaced in his thoughts with striking clarity. Wide brown eyes brimming with tears, the tremor in her voice, the intensity of her anguish. He was a man recognized for his unwavering confidence in his decisions. This evening he found himself unable to cease. He rose suddenly and made his way to the window. The rain had ceased, yet the city beneath continued to glisten with remnants of the tempest's glow. For years he had navigated his existence with meticulousness, transactions, information and mastery. Emotions were a hindrance. Individuals were either beneficial or detrimental. Yet that girl, Emma, defied categorization. She existed in her full complexity, yet he had diminished her to a mere shadow of humanity with one thoughtless presumption. Alexander averted his gaze from the window, his jaw clenched in tension. He picked up his phone and called his executive assistant. "Claire," he murmured as she picked up the phone, still half asleep. "First thing tomorrow morning, please arrange a private meeting with the hotel manager. Please provide background information on all cleaning staff assigned to the executive floors within the last 72 hours, and locate a phone number or address for Emma Mendez." Claire took a moment to reflect. "Absolutely, sir. Could you please explain the reason?" Alexander took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the ID. The badge remained quietly on his nightstand. He acknowledged his error and expressed his determination to make it right. 2 days later, Alexander Hart found himself standing before a weathered green door in a cramped corridor of a modest housing complex on the city's east side. The building exuded a subtle aroma of mildew and boiled vegetables, a sharp divergence from the marble and eucalyptus-infused atmosphere of the Grand Avalon. He straightened the collar of his coat and rapped twice on the door. The door creaked open, revealing a woman in her late 50s who peered out cautiously, her eyes filled with suspicion, until she recognized him from the photographs and news articles she had seen. "Mr. Hart?" she inquired, taken aback. "Indeed," he replied with a courteous nod. "It seems you are Ms. Mendez." With a blink, she summoned the strength to push the door open wider, leaning heavily on her cane. "I apologize," she said. "My ankle is still in the process of healing. Feel free to step inside as long as you can overlook the clutter." The apartment, though modest in size, was impeccably tidy. A battered couch occupied the center of a humble living room, accompanied by a pile of medical texts and a collection of empty tea mugs. The screen was dark, and the atmosphere was infused with the fragrance of lavender and menthol balm. Alexander entered, absorbing the unpretentious environment. He had frequented boardrooms more lavish than many ballrooms, yet this modest and intimate space rendered him surprisingly silent. "I'm not here to stir up any issues," he said softly. Lily gave a weary smile as she sank into the couch. "I had a feeling about that. You may not be one to pursue legal action, yet I understand your purpose for being here." Alexander arched an eyebrow. "Lily remarked that you realized it wasn't me who was cleaning that night. One of the staff mentioned that you were inquiring about some matters." He nodded slowly regarding Emma. "Indeed, I have come to understand that I erred, and it was a significant error." Lily cast her gaze downward, nervously fiddling with the hem of her sweater. Her intentions were solely to assist me. I had taken a tumble. My ankle twisted painfully, and the thought of missing that shift filled me with dread about losing my job. She proposed to go, if only for a single night. Alexander chose to say nothing. "She pleaded with me to keep it a secret," Lily went on, her voice fading to a whisper. "She mentioned that if anyone discovered she wasn't part of the staff, it would lead to my termination. She believed she could simply enter, tidy up a few spaces, and slip away unnoticed. Yet someone did, Alexander whispered. Lily gave a slight nod. She has been in tears ever since. He cast his gaze over the books on the table once more. Are you considering medical school? She's in her last year, seeking a scholarship, juggling 2 part-time jobs, and burning the midnight oil with her studies. I constantly remind her that she's exhausting herself from all sides, yet she insists this is the only path forward. Alexander exhaled gently. What I said to her was unwarranted. No, Lily concurred, yet she comprehends the reasoning behind your thoughts. She understands the perception others have of individuals like her, particularly from someone like you. Her voice carried no accusation, only the weight of weary honesty. Alexander rose to his feet. May I have a moment to converse with her? Lily gazed at him for a brief moment, then gave a nod of understanding. She spends the majority of her day on campus, specifically in the medical building, room 213. After class, she dedicates her time to the free clinic as a volunteer. She stands out effortlessly. The university campus thrummed with energy, students pedaling past, some engrossed in their laptops, while the rhythmic clinking of coffee cups punctuates the atmosphere. Alexander loomed like a beacon amidst the crowd of young faces, tall, dressed sharply and distinctly different. He entered the medical building and quickly located room 213. Through the glass window of the clinic reception, he caught sight of her, Emma. She sat at her desk, meticulously organizing medication samples into their designated trays. Her hair was pulled back with precision, and she donned a white coat that hung a bit loosely on her frame. Even with her weary gaze, she advanced with determination. He tapped gently. Emma glanced upward and became still. She stood up gradually, her lips parting in astonishment. What brings you here? Her voice lacked anger, instead carrying a sense of smallness and caution. He stated that he had come to express his apologies. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Her fingers clenched the rim of the desk. If you're here to bring up any concerns about me or my aunt, I'm not, he interjected softly. I would never do that. Emma, I came to understand just how mistaken I was. I viewed the recording. I observed your approach, noting the thoughtfulness and consideration you exhibited. You were being genuine. You were nothing like the way I portrayed you. She blinked quickly, tears welling up once more. I completely misread you in the worst way possible, he went on. I've invested years in the company of individuals who seem to seek only to extract something from me. I've come to expect the worst. That evening I allowed that skepticism to overwhelm me. But you, he hesitated. Your intentions were simply to assist someone dear to you. Emma's lower lip quivered. She averted her gaze, shielding her face with one hand. Alexander remained quiet, patiently awaiting her to speak. I never intended to find myself in your room, she confessed, her voice trembling. I was simply aiming to perform well. My aunt is my whole world. I understand, he murmured gently, and you exceeded expectations. Your words brought to mind that some things in this world are beyond monetary value. She gazed at him, taken aback. He smiled sincerely, without a hint of arrogance. I've encountered countless individuals, Emma, yet I've never witnessed anyone embody such strength and humility in a single moment, quite like you did that night. She remained still, tears cascading down her cheeks, her defenses starting to wane. For the first time since that dreadful night, she felt no shame, only a sense of being acknowledged. With a measured approach, Alexander advanced and offered his hand. May I have the opportunity to correct this? Emma lingered at her desk late into the night, the soft murmur of the campus clinic still resonating in her mind. She rubbed her eyes, fatigued from a long day of rotations, when her phone buzzed gently beside her. The screen illuminated with a message that read, "Would you be free for lunch tomorrow? I have a topic in mind that I'd love to explore together, and there's absolutely no rush." Meh. Her fingers lingered above the screen for a brief moment before she responded, "Okay, noon. Perfect." When she encountered Alexander the following day, it was not in an extravagant restaurant or an exclusive lounge, but at a serene cafe close to campus, her preferred study nook, where the coffee was robust and the chairs groaned, yet the sunlight streamed through the windows perfectly. He had arrived, settled at a quaint corner table, 2 cups placed before him. He rose at the sight of her, shedding the image of the imposing CEO from glossy magazines, revealing instead a man clad in a modest navy sweater and dark jeans. He seemed slightly too tall for the surroundings, yet somehow he belonged there. "I took a chance," he said, extending one of the cups toward her. "The young woman at the counter mentioned that this has always been your go-to choice." Emma accepted it. Taken aback, you recalled. "I make an effort to hold on to the significant moments," he stated, and the earnestness in his tone rendered her speechless. They engaged in conversation for some time, discussing school, the patients she had encountered, and the tumult of balancing studies with the demands of life. In the midst of a brief silence, Alexander delved into his coat pocket and set a folder down on the table. "This comes from the Heart Foundation," he stated. "A new scholarship program has been established for medical students who have shown remarkable resilience and character. This program offers comprehensive tuition support, a living allowance, and opportunities for research and fieldwork within our global health initiatives." Emma gazed at it, utterly astonished. He maintained her gaze with tenderness. "It's not an act of charity. You truly deserved this. That evening in that suite, you transformed a space. Your display of dignity surpasses what many achieve in their entire lives." She gently shook her head, a slow and deliberate motion. "I cannot agree to this solely based on your feelings of guilt. It's not remorse," he stated. "It's acknowledgement and esteem." With fingers that trembled, she opened the folder. Inside was her name printed boldly, causing her chest to tighten. In the weeks that followed, their communication evolved, starting with brief check-ins and gradually transitioning into more extended discussions. Occasionally, he inquired about the progress of her exams. Occasionally, she inquired about his most recent board meeting or the destinations he had visited. She never anticipated a response from him, yet he consistently replied with thoughtfulness, occasionally laced with humor, always exhibiting a quiet patience that left her feeling unsettled. Emma couldn't shake the thoughts of him, lingering in her mind more than she cared to acknowledge. Alexander, as well, sensed a change in the air. It began with guilt, undeniably, but now it had evolved into something he could no longer overlook. Emma's candor caught him off guard. Her authenticity was refreshing, a breath of fresh air after enduring years of obscurity. He observed her interactions, with others never looking down on them, always attentive. She recalled the names of the custodians and the security personnel. She paused to assist those in need, her mind unclouded by hesitation. She existed as if compassion was her inherent nature. It brought him to his knees, leaving him to ponder how he had managed to live so long without someone like her by his side. One afternoon, after completing a site visit for a new community clinic funded by his foundation, they stood outside beneath the warm late spring sun, the city gently buzzing around them. "You've transformed," she murmured softly. Alexander faced her. "In what way?" "You're more gentle," she remarked. He laughed, feeling more at ease. "That's not what my panel indicates." Emma offered a smile, yet her gaze drifted elsewhere. "I believe. The world once seemed like a war zone to you. It appears that your focus has shifted towards mending it, rather than overcoming it." He took his time before responding. Then, gently, he whispered, "You inspired me to." She turned her gaze toward him, taken aback. Alexander moved a bit nearer, his presence unthreatening yet sincere. "Emma, I have constructed vast enterprises, brokered multi-million-dollar agreements, and shared spaces with royalty and leaders. Yet nothing has unsettled me more than the way you gazed at me that evening, when I misinterpreted your intentions, and nothing has lingered in my mind longer than the elegance you displayed afterward." Emma's heart raced with intensity. "We come from separate realms," she murmured. "I'm not a part of your world." "That's where you're mistaken," he stated, his tone steady yet inviting. "You have the freedom to choose your place, and if you permit it, I would love to be included in that realm, no matter where it may be." She examined his expression, seeking signs of arrogance or pretense, yet discovered nothing but sincerity. For the first time, she allowed herself to smile, not just out of politeness, but wholeheartedly, not because of his title as CEO, but because he was Alexander, and fear no longer held her back. A year slipped by, subtle yet deeply significant, much like the gentle turning of a page. Emma graduated from medical school with honors, her white coat ceremony characterized not by extravagance, but by a sense of quiet pride. She secured an internship at a reputable city hospital, and despite the lengthy hours and modest pay, she navigated each corridor with determination. She had cast aside her fears of what lay ahead. For the first time, it seemed as though she had crafted something with her own hands. During that year, Alexander was consistently there, not in an overwhelming way, but with a gentle presence. A considerate note amidst the pressures of exams, a comforting cup of tea waiting for her behind the scenes after her lecture, and those rare dinners where he took the time to truly listen rather than dominate the conversation. He never pushed her, he never sought to dazzle her, and maybe that was what captivated her the most. Then arrived the night of the Foundation's annual charity gala, a radiant evening hosted at the Grand Avalon itself. Emma stood before the same majestic doors where her tale had commenced, now adorned in a sophisticated navy gown, her hair elegantly swept back, her stance resolute. The ballroom glimmered beneath a cascade of lights. Attendees in elegant black tuxedos and shimmering gowns savored their champagne while engaging in courteous dialogue, oblivious to the remarkable tale unfolding quietly in their midst. As the evening drew to a close, Alexander took the stage to deliver the concluding remarks. He stood beneath a golden chandelier, his presence commanding as always, yet when he began to speak, his voice was unexpectedly soft. "Reverend, I've constructed a life defined by agreements and market dynamics," he remarked, surveying the space. "For a considerable period, I held the conviction that value was derived from status, wealth, and efficiency. However, this year, I encountered an individual who completely dismantled that belief." A soft whisper spread among the audience, yet Alexander pressed on, his eyes momentarily wandering to the rear of the room, where Emma remained motionless. Her breath hitched. She held no title of partnership, nor did she contribute as a donor or lead as a CEO. She was a serendipitous encounter, yet in hindsight it feels like fate intervened. For one fleeting night, she stepped into my life and illuminated the essence of grace, strength, and authentic dignity. Silence enveloped the space, more profound than ever. He expressed his gratitude, acknowledging that without her he could still be pursuing what truly holds little significance. He descended amidst a gentle wave of applause, yet his gaze remained fixed on Emma. As the guests mingled and the music filled the air, Emma drifted to the balcony in search of a breath of fresh air. The city lights shimmered beneath her, reminiscent of countless fireflies, and for a fleeting moment she allowed herself to inhale deeply. "Emerson?" His voice lingered softly in the space behind her. She pivoted. Alexander moved ahead, his face revealing a mix of vulnerability and hesitation, a striking contrast for someone who typically exuded confidence in his words. "Every word I spoke was sincere," he stated. She nodded at a loss for words in response. He paused for a moment, then offered a subtle smile. "I've navigated high-stakes mergers worth billions and stood my ground against the fiercest competitors, yet nothing has stirred my nerves quite like this moment." Emma's lips formed a subtle smile. "What is the reason?" "Because," he said, his voice low and sincere, "what I feel for you isn't calculated or strategic. It's terrifyingly real." She gazed at him, her eyes gentle and warm. "I once believed I had a grasp on others," he went on, "thought I could decipher them, foresee their actions. Then, on a rainy night, a girl appeared in my suite, not to impress or seek anything for herself, but solely to assist someone she cared for, and in that moment she transformed everything I believed I understood." Emma's eyes brimmed with tears. "I've fallen in love with you," he said, "not due to any efforts you've made to capture my heart, but because of the essence of who you are when you believe no one is observing. Your quiet strength, your kindness, your honesty resonate deeply with me. I cherish you just as you are." For what felt like an eternity, she found herself at a loss for words, the city lights swirling before her gaze. Finally, in silence, She extended her hand and grasped his. His breath hitched. She remained silent, yet her fingers, softly encircling his, conveyed all he needed to understand. The subsequent years unfolded not with fanfare or spectacle, but through subtle, significant experiences, strolling through the quiet of dawn, savoring coffee in the sterile ambience of hospital break rooms, slipping notes into suitcases ahead of lengthy journeys. Emma and Alexander, initially unfamiliar with one another due to a miscommunication, crafted a life that was uncomplicated, authentic, and profoundly their own. Emma flourished in her profession, recognized for her sharp mind and steadfast compassion. She cared for her patients with compassion, recalled their names, and allowed no triumph to change her true self. Her coat gleamed with cleanliness, her heart radiated warmth and openness. Alexander, while continuing to guide his empire, started to realign his focus. Motivated by Emma, he broadened the Heart Foundation's scope, emphasizing community clinics, scholarships and mental health initiatives, aspects he had previously neglected. He transitioned from towering structures to meaningful work, shifting his focus from influence to intention. All right, Stepsy and Nora kept their relationship under wraps. There were no grand announcements, no glossy magazine features, yet those familiar with them could perceive it, the way he gazed at her, the subtle warmth in her smile when he stepped into the room. Aunt Lily, joyfully enjoying her retirement, resided in the house that Emma purchased for her. She tended to her garden, crafted with the neighborhood children, and frequently playfully teased Alexander about the memorable first night they encountered each other. You believed she was involved in a hotel surprise, and she would chuckle at that. Well, look who's taken aback. Years later, at the inauguration of a children's hospital, Alexander stood at the podium, dressed in a modest grey suit. Emma observed silently from the shadows. In my youth, he remarked, I believed that success was all about pursuing more wealth, more acclaim. Yet on a particular evening, I encountered an individual who revealed the reality to me. He halted, his eyes settling on Emma. She made no effort to dazzle. She just offered assistance to someone dear to her. She offered her all without asking for anything in return. She reminded me that the most precious treasures in life aren't purchased, they're discovered. He smiled, his eyes gentle and warm. Once sought opulence, yet my heart was captured by something far more profound. A woman who required no offerings, for she was a treasure in her own right. The atmosphere was hushed, profoundly touched. Emma brushed away a tear, her heart brimming, and in that stillness, everything became evident. This tale unfolds not through chance, but through affection, not through riches, but through value, illustrating how the most remarkable adventures frequently start with an unforeseen misstep. We appreciate your companionship on this profoundly impactful journey. If this narrative resonated with you, evoked the subtle strength of compassion, or inspired faith in the elegance of new beginnings, then it achieved precisely what we intended. At Soul-Stirring Stories, we are dedicated to crafting narratives that mend, uplift, and ignite a gentle spark within each of us. Narratives of strength, of affection that transcends limits, of everyday individuals achieving remarkable feats not through clamor, but with genuine emotion. If you experienced something today, we encourage you to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories to ensure you never miss a tale that resonates with your spirit, as often the tiniest moments carry the deepest significance. Until we meet again in the next tale.